So yeah, the fig, you can really taste the fig in this. It's quite good. Hello and welcome to Tuesday Night Torg. We are back. We are back, not in the studio as you may have remembered it, but we are back. I'm JM the GM. We are on the Ulysses International channel. I'm joined tonight with John, who plays Simeon, Maddie, who plays V, and Becca, who plays Lapis. And for those of you who don't know, I have moved. I am in another state from where I used to be, and that's one of the reasons that we've been on hiatus. So we are now back together. We just moved in and got settled yesterday. So we are going to go and basically do a question and answer, kind of test everything out, see where we're at, still keep going into the joy of Torg. How have you guys been? Players, chat, how have you been? JD, our producer, is, as always, just... I look as if she's sitting over there, but she's sort of, about 800 miles that way. So, how are you guys doing tonight?
I miss gaming. The fact that I haven't for like 2 weeks is slowly just wearing on me.
I'm excited to be here, answer some questions, see what questions are burning in people's minds about us. Well, me fumbling my way through Torg.
I don't feel like any of you guys have been fumbling your way through Torg, but that is actually one of the things that we're going to address tonight. We're going to talk about kind of the state of the game, where we've been at, what we've been doing, and we're going to go to, our first question was not for tonight, so I won't say who asked it, because I don't want to throw them under the bus. But it was noticed that there has been sort of a shift in tone on the rules mechanics sides of things through the Orosian arc into the Pan-Pacifica arc. And we don't know kind of what it is, so I figured I would toss it out to the players and kind of see where you guys are at and what your thoughts are. One of them would be, since when the group hit Orosh, Orosh is that cosm where all of the standard rules of Torg break, right? It's horror, it's harder to soak, it's harder to get things done. All of the cards are against you. And at the end of that arc, we also lost Anton and Lady Salvo as characters in the game. And Ross had that really special connection with the rules of Torg, right? Like, he really understood all of the possibilities. And since going into Pan-Pacifica, there's been a little bit of shyness and confrontation because we have a different set of characters. We're learning who Simeon is. We're, Lapis is back. Can we trust her? Can we not? So one of the questions was, how are we going to look at kind of bringing that cinematic feel? Like, maybe sometimes it is okay to blow things up. Maybe sometimes it is okay to, like, bite your thumb and be like, no, I am biting my thumb at you, sir. Because you're back in a cosm where all of the things are kind of in the Storm Knight's favor. You've got possibilities, you've got cosm cards, you have destiny cards, you have all of these things that are working towards you to make you a cinematic powerhouse. Do you guys feel like that shift has been noticeable to you? I mean, Maddie is really the one I can ask about that because John and Becca, you're kind of new to the campaign. But have you felt that shift, Maddie? If so, what are some thoughts that Becca and John that you guys could bring into next week when we're back fully in the Pan-Pacifica arc of how would you want to see this game turned up to 11 in Pan-Pacifica? We'll start with Maddie here.
I guess I feel more relaxed in Pan Pacifica just because it doesn't feel like everything is going to bite you in, or stab you in the back, I guess. The cinematic fight quality, I think, will be interesting. I, as a player, and it has probably been picked up across the board, do not lean into the combat side of things. I am much more the character that wants to subvert the rules and subvert the system and, generally throw a fork in the plan. So I don't know.
Not even a wrench, which I would expect.
Right. Exactly.
That thing's got 3 tines and you use it to twirl your hair. Like, that's what V throws in the plan.
Pretty much. So I'll be interested to see how it plays out. We've gotten close, but on that side, like, as a player, that's not what brings me joy, so it's not the side of the equation that I'm going to lean into. I know that always doesn't make for an exciting game for folks, but...
No, but again, as we've stated many times, well, we are doing it for the audience, and I hope audience, and by that I mean people on Twitch and on YouTube, hopefully we love engaging with you. But at the end of the day, I run the games for the players in the table. John and Becca, kind of same question, or how would you like to see this game turned up to 11? Remember, in Torg, you're not the guy on the street who picks up a Swiss Army knife and goes out into the street. You're an action hero. So how would you guys like to see, maybe from me, how to like incorporate more of that cinematic nature, maybe push back on you? How would you, like, what kind of things would you guys like to see your characters be doing kind of going forward?
I think for me, with what Lapis has been turned into as a villain and then, like, quote unquote being redeemed, she's walking that line of not shooting first. And so, like, if that's what you want, if the explosions and the cinematic gunfight is what we're looking for, there's got to be a moment where Lapis deems it's better to shoot and risk the wrath of Edith and V, because otherwise they're doomed. So yeah, to have that moment where it's like, well...
So the shootout in the lobby against faceless goons, where it's Lapis's time to blow something up and put bullets between eyes.
Right.
So, okay.
Like, and that kind of happened, I mean, in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Except it was Lapis versus the reality villain, and then Edith mopping up the faceless goons. Right? While Simeon discovered he could fly, and Tyrannic learned what an electric sword was, and V made sure we didn't get caught by the police. Like, we all have our skills. And, like, Lady Salvo and Anton were very good at fights.
Mm-hmm.
Lapis is good at fights, but she's trying to prove that that's not the only way that she'll go, and so she's trying to not shoot first. I mean, she did with Scotty. She doesn't feel bad about that. Sorry.
Well, Simeon or
So,
John.
Yeah,
okay.
No, I just said so. Faceless goons
Could be helpful.
I also have another feud card, so toss that into the mix.
You should definitely play with that.
Yeah. Get more than one going.
Now, John, you played like a session, maybe 2 with us before we went into the wasteland of the now. But you have now returned to us. So you're still kind of learning what Simeon can do. And right about the time you would have had about 3 sessions under your belt, you came back and had to apply almost 100 XP to Simeon.
Right.
So what are you, like, what would you see as, like, Simeon's, if you could plot the perfect scene for Simeon to show off how cinematically awesome he is, what would that look like? And then Maddie, I'm going to ask you the same questions. So,
Well, I think okay. So I think Simeon is in Pan Pacifica. He's kind of struggling with the dichotomy between the the science that he knows, or
mm-hmm.
how he understands the world to work from the Nile Empire, and realizing that you know um, the how the world works isn't quite that. There's a disparity there
Mm-hmm.
here in Pence, and so he's, I think, wrestling with trying to reconcile those two models, or
Mm-hmm. So you're still trying to not just get a handle on your character, but your character is starting to try and get a handle on shifting between cosms.
right. And I mean, his a major motivation of his is basically to figure out how the world and how the interplay between the cosms work, and you know it, I think he's kind of searching for almost like a universal equation, or a universal a universal
unified
scientific model for how everything works, but he's discovering that things are more squishy than that.
So you're saying that Simeon is trying to come up with the unified cosm field theorem?
Correct.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I know that wasn't really the question you asked, but
No, but I mean that gives some context onto who your character is and how are you trying
Right.
to kind of change and adapt. Do you want me to come back to you? I'll jump over to Maddie for like what would in her mind
Sure.
if you had all of the money in the world, you had the director you chose, and you
Right.
could bring your character to life for 7 minutes, one scene, Wachowski's, Ridley Scott, like whoever it is, what's kind of the image of this is the coolest thing I could picture V being in?
Ooh. I feel like it would be some combination of like hacking in the Matrix versus like a long like Ocean's 8, Ocean's 10, 11, no, well, 11 was terrible. No, Ocean's 11, 12 was terrible.
Yeah.
Like long con deception,
All
like
right.
showing mixed in with a little, like maybe a little, I mean, let's be honest, I built V kind of off the board, like a little bit of like some of that cyberpunk. So I think it'd be kind of those influences, like gritty hacking of the Matrix, long con of an Ocean's movie, and then, some fun cybernetics.
Kind of sprinkled in on top, hit with a roulette torch.
Just on top. Yeah.
No, awesome. Lapis, what about you?
So cinematic moment that hasn't necessarily been in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because like when I was thinking of cinematic moments, I was thinking back to when, like before the Horsemen, when we were fighting the bad guys and Lapis sacrifices herself for everyone to get away. So that awesome gunfight and the flipping and twirling, leather duster flying in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Fight, somewhat like ninja movie in that the moves are impossible.
Yeah.
And then in Lapis's backstory, her fiance was the bad guy from that arc. And so some sort of almost romantic moment that gets thwarted, and then she has to shoot him or something to save the world.
John, before we get to you, Mr. Furious has had some great comments. Yes, I did lose my hair to an unfortunate fork hair twisting accident. I don't like to talk about it, but I reference it sort of obliquely. Mr. Furious also loves that Simeon is now beginning to live up to his name, and he's totally sure that a Nile Empire-based Simeon will have zero issues with Tech 24 gene mods. Yes, I agree. Also, Maddie, you can get a cybernetic brulee torch implanted and then toast your own desserts. Those would be, just desserts. But, so John.
So I think I'm picturing kind of like a scene where, there's some, challenge before us that, the Simeon needs to come up with some, invention just from the things on hand, like a MacGyver kind of situation is kind of what I'm.
So a little like
what I'm picturing.
Phantom's character when he MacGyvered the crap out of the jungle to make a B-52 sized ATV powered. So you would like to have that. We're stuck in a lab. Quick, make some. Okay. Well, hello to Restar and Mr. Furious, and also we have questions from. Right now it's Ben and Greg, Mr. Furious and Malachi. So thank you guys for joining. To all of you in chat, it's great to be back. It's great to see you guys and interact with you. This is going to be 2 questions, both directed at the players. I love that this session we're getting a lot of questions for the players. I've got a couple that I have prepped as well. But from Mr. Furious, for you guys, is there any other character concept that either you almost wanted to play and pick the character you're with now, or if you were to start over, if there was a brand new campaign tomorrow, where do you think you would be from and what do you think you would be?
I would like to play like a ninja assassin from Pan Pacifica.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
Like cybernetics, gene mods, breath powers, like which way would you go?
Breath powers?
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't know about that.
That would be why your rival did all of the things that she could do. She had breath powers and they're pretty awesome. Well done, design team. All right, so if you had to choose, which way would it be?
Either gen mods or breath powers.
Okay. All right. John, I know you've played about 7 sessions of Torg. If you had to pick the follow-up question is from Restar. Becca, if you could cast anyone to play Lapis in the Horsemen movie, franchise of course, with spin-off movies for Burochi and the B Team, let's just be honest, it would be a Torg cinematic universe. Who would play Lapis? And let's open it up to any actress or actor from across time. So like...
Yeah. All right, give me a minute.
All right, we'll cycle back around. So, John, is there another character that you would like to... Is there another character concept that you either were debating with between Nile... Like, knowing you, John, I feel like Nile Empire was definitely... Like, Nile Empire Weird Science Inventor was definitely your number 1 choice.
Yeah, I pretty quickly gravitated to that.
Is there anything else that stood out to you as would be fun to play?
I do like the Monster Hunter kind of role. I mean, there's already, we already have a character, doing that. But I mean that, I wouldn't want to, kind of double up the.
But new campaign. If the options were limitless, you would do a Monster Hunter.
I don't know. Yeah, I think that sounds intriguing.
Awesome. All right. Maddie, what about you?
Well, I can't tell you the one because Lily and I are workshopping something in case we die in this campaign. Uh, uh, but the one that came along after I built V that I thought would have been a lot of fun. Well, I mean, one, I built Shelly, so I kind of got the two. But the other was that came out with the Oroche was the inspiring suffragette, the something suffragette. I thought that could be a lot of fun. Um, so leaning into that, but I do have another one up my sleeve, but I don't want to give too much away.
Ooh.
My PC. And then to play V, I think Karen Gillan would do just a solid job.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Restar says he always regrets not being a lizard man if lizard man is on the table. So all I'm saying is, Ben, next character, play the Adinos. John, Becca, do you have your number one actor or actress choice to play your character? And yes, Lily, I do. I just assume you're plotting at all times. You're one bad day from being the coolest supervillain the world has seen. So please take that as the compliment that I mean it as. John and Becca, who would your actor or actress choices be?
I can't think of his name, but I have his face
Do you,
in my
do you
head.
have a role
If
that
I
he
can
has
find
played?
On the spot, my brain is going everywhere, so I can't think.
No, don't worry. If
think
come
of what
back
he's
around
been in.
to it. Come back around to it. Becca, what about you?
Well, I was just going, ooh, I don't know, like, off the top of my head, who's, an African actress to represent Lapis. And then, so I was just looking, and I'm going to totally butcher her name, unfortunately, but Lupita Nyong'o would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
Not exactly my thoughts, but now I'm like, oh, I could change. Like, no, that would work. I just have to change basic things, and yeah, no, that's that would work. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's see here. System-wise, Mr. Furious asked, what is the highest roll we've ever seen? For the record, their cyber papacy elven cyber witch just got a roll of 172. I don't think we've seen that high. I think we saw in the 80s, because we've had 3 glory cards play through the whole of the campaign at this point. One of them was in the original game with Sadie. One of them was in the first B Team game, where it went from an Oroch horror game to look at how awesome the B Team is. Which, let's just be honest, that should be their tagline. The B Team, look at how awesome we are. And then there was another one, I think. Was it you as well, Maddie? Cool. So we just need to steal Maddie's dice, is what I'm hearing. I don't think.
He tries every week to steal my dice, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think we've gotten much higher than like mid 80s at this point. But I do see the appeal of just going, okay, we've already hit a glory, but how high can this thing go? And then going to the GM and go, did I get an outstanding success? And only to have the GM tell you, no, you failed. Let's see here. Malachi is Vincent Price in a Liam Neeson movie with Matthew Berry's voice. That is a very evocative Hollywood creation. Like, I feel like if we could put those 3 in like a genetic blender, maybe in Pan Pacifica, V could 3D print this actor for us next session. All right, let's see. All right, so this one's for me. How do I calculate the necessary threat level to keep the game challenging but not a TPK, considering the Storm Knights are usually overpowered? All right, so the beta clearance rules give some pretty good advice on how to step up threats. But in general, for me, I tend to burn through those beta clearance possibilities in the very first encounter that they fight to kind of use it as a gauge for how well I'm doing. I tend to throw 3 to 4 non-reality rated foes at them per Storm Knight, and then at least one really awesome reality rated foe, because there's so many things. Torg has great rules for they have great guidelines, and I know who asked the question. This is from Restar, so I know that he knows Torg very deeply. So you know that there's no such thing as challenge rating. There's no such thing as this many reality rated foes to this many Storm Knights. I think for me, my best gauge is I will throw what I think feels right. It's really more of an art than a science. And then if need be, I mean, you've seen it, like I'll have more foes bust in on the scene if the fight's going too easy. Or take the big cinematic fight we had in the parking garage. I was keeping track of time, I was keeping track of player resources, people were really started to get wounded, and so we had that NPC that it made sense, okay, they need to escort this guy out, because although the Storm Knights are starting to show the evidence that they've been in a fight, that's still totally possible that they chew through that person on a glory roll and come, bowling through. If the fight's also going hard, I tend to try and give out more possibilities before I say things like, okay, people are running away, or maybe you need to try and think about running away, because possibilities can shift any roll massively, and it allows the players to soak damage. So in a 3-player game, giving out one possibility to each person, that's an extra soak roll. That's also an extra chance to make a critical roll go right. And so that's kind of, I try and keep all of those plates spinning. Sometimes I fail. And when I fail, the fights tend to go like, the PCs more often than not tend to blow past the fight. There have been a couple of times where the fights have definitely been too hard and the PCs have had to run away. When I plan games, I'm not really worried about balanced encounters. I'm more worried about encounters that make sense in the story and the cosm. So even those fights where they, like, the ones that come to mind are that running battle through the city in Oroch. The name Madras? Was it Madras? The name fails me. Where it started in the safe house and Ross played the card that triggered the fight, and then the burning building, and then the wedding, and then Tyrannic getting turned into a hybrid. That was like one long running encounter over 3 weeks. That was one where every time the dice hit the table, it was like, cool, this is it, someone's going to die. Okay, someone had a clutch card, someone had a clutch possibility, someone had a clutch cosm card, and you guys were able to roll through it, but everyone at this table has lost, or on the stream has lost characters at my table, because there are times where, because of the choices that have been made, you guys ended up in a situation where the deck is stacked against you. And I've also tried to show, this is something that I always feel showing is better than telling. I've tried to have NPCs run away to show you guys this is an option. Like, it's not like every NPC fight is to the death. There's always people who are willing to go, next time, Gadget. Next time. In
that fight in the parking lot, him running away because you were afraid we were going to take him out? He's supposed to be a high-level boss?
Mhm.
Or... Okay. Because he was supposed to get in the elevator and go to the top and be too secure for him.
Yes. That's right. That's right, Greg. There is no B in awesome, but there is now. From now on, we will refer to Bossum when referring to the B team. All right, so who were you thinking, John? I just saw the notice pop up.
So I was thinking for Simeon, either Mark Strong or Ben Kingsley.
Oh, Ben Kingsley would just be... I know, John, you may have dreamed too big. No, he is one of my favorite actors. That was a mistake. So Greg says his encounter balance mantra is Storm Knights can do anything they want, but they cannot do everything they want, and tries to give multiple objectives in a major encounter. And I think that's a great strength of Torg. Between dramatic scenes, between the interaction skills, between how many times has V made a clutch roll because she hacked some piece of technology that was present that I wasn't prepared to deal with, because she's thinking outside of the box and she's using interaction attacks in a really unique way. So I agree with that. I think approaching combat encounters in Torg as strictly, here is a blank room, here is the bad guys on one side, the Storm Knights on the other, go, does the system and the setting a major injustice, right? Every action movie that we're drawing from, every cinematic genre we're drawing from, I think Maddie does a really good job with this. I feel like I'm tooting your horn, but Maddie's always asking, what else is in the room? What can I hack? What else can I do? Because these skills in Torg, the goal is always to not just go, and then I shoot my gun again. And I think one of the things that Torg does that really encourages this, ignoring the I swing my sword again, is the approved action. And you guys are usually on top of using the approved action, either as part of a multi-action or going, I was going to shoot them, but intimidate is the approved action. So what could I do to change how I'm viewing this encounter?
Except that all of our intimidates suck.
That is true.
My taunt went up by 2. It's now an 8. I think.
All right, so this one's for you guys. This one's from me, actually. We've been playing Torg for a while. John, not as a while as the rest of us. And chat, this is for you. I will incorporate your responses to this question as well. Oh, Restart just said, it's not so much violence as defeating obstacles in any way you can. Always know where the fire alarm is. That is true. And I think that when the fire alarm started going in the basement or in the parking garage, I think everyone's mind instantly could picture the scene that was going on. All right, so out of all of the sessions of Torg we played, out of all of the encounters and cosm cards and destiny cards and perks and spells, everything that we've encountered over the 2.5 years we've been playing Torg, for you guys, what is your favorite mechanic out of Torg Eternity? And chat, I want you to chime in on this too. Please. JD, I know I'm about to inundate you with a ton of responses, but I know you can handle it.
And we're talking about mechanics that come from the cards.
The cards, your characters, like perks, like standard rules, so things like how soaking works. Any rule on the table, what is your favorite and why? You want me to read some of the chat ones while you're pondering? Mr. Furious, Martyr, and I would agree that card has been used twice in this first campaign to great effect. Shawnee stopped the Red Dragon of Welsh lore from rising with a martyr card. And Lady Salvo put the Nightmare to rest with a martyr card. I think that is also one of my favorites. When I saw that, you can ask Becca and Maddie and John. If someone comes to me in the middle of the session and goes, I'm willing to give my character's life to get this done, what do I need to do? You have my undivided attention. I will bend every rule. I will throw books out the window, because when a player comes to you and says, I'm willing to die for this, GMs listen. That means they are at their peak moment of investment. This person that they have poured time and energy into is now they're so invested in their story that they're willing to sacrifice all of that attachment to continue what is going on. And so the fact that Torg has it as a printed mechanic, the only other game I've seen it in that has that is Legend of the Five Rings 4th edition. They were like, here's how magic works.
In 7th Sea.
Yeah, and if at any point a character is willing to kill themselves, change the way magic works so that they can get the effect they want. So in the lore, they use the example of the Shugenja, which is sort of the priest, who raised the river into a wall of water to prevent demons from overwhelming the empire. And she held it there long enough for an entire clan to build a wall along the river, so that when she died, the demons, the Oni, just saw this massive wall defended by the crab where there wasn't one. Like, that's the kind of epicness we want in games, I think. All right, what about you guys? And then the chat. Is it any surprise that Restars is the corruption test?
Well, Jam, I think you already touched on this, but the approved actions thing, just to kind of encourage or incentivize using a different approach or a different tactic each round of combat, I think is a good mechanic. That,
Yeah.
So that it's doesn't just turn into a hack and slash.
Right. And I love the fact that in Torg, characters can do more than one thing, right? With the multi-action or the multi-target. So you can always go, well, I still want to slash him with my sword, but I'm going to maneuver him into a better position first and kind of keep that spiral going.
And the other thing I like about it is that because it comes from the cosm cards, right? It's a deck that's specific to that cosm.
No, it comes
right?
from the Destiny deck. Or no, I'm
okay.
sorry, the Drama deck. It's on the initiative cards that we use.
Right. So that same deck is drawn regardless of what cosm you're in?
Well, yes and no. Because as the new cosms have come out, they have added booster decks, which if you guys have not seen these are spectacular. I had it upside down. They have new drama cards for the cosm, as well as new Destiny cards and new cosm cards. So it re-themes the drama deck around the special features of the cosm, and I plan on using those more in campaign 2. Spoiler alert. Becca and Maddie, what about you?
I appreciate the fact that with both possibilities and not cosmo cards, Destiny cards,
Mm-hmm.
You can affect your roll. And so then rather than just saying, well, you didn't make it, it's well, you need 3 more. Do you have a card, or are you willing to roll for it? Just to help make it that cinematic feel. Because there's nothing worse than rolling a bad perception check and getting stuck in a room.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think that, at least I have tried to, and I know there are times where in the moment it can be very easy to come up with a binary response, pass fail. But I think Torg lends itself to the idea of fail forward, or you get what you want, but you don't get it the way you want it on a failed roll, if that makes sense. I want to pick the lock before the guards get here. Well, I fail. Well, cool, you pick the lock, but you make so much noise that the guards are actually on the other side of the door. Torg rules won't let the DM be a jerk, according to Restar. Challenge accepted. I mean, what about you, Maddie?
This will come as a great chunk. I like the cooperative nature of Torg, so that you're dealing cards across the table. So, like, I distinctly remember the first B-team game where I'm playing with several gentlemen who know Torg inside and out, and I do not. I'm still learning. And there was that moment of, oh, well, you rolled high enough, so here's a glory card. Let's see what we can do with that. Whereas in some other systems, like, you can lend aid to folks, but it's not as fluid. So that ability to sit there and really strategize and say, okay, well, we're really close to this goal. Can someone trade me for this? Or can someone trade me for this? Also, the chaos agent in me loves, which I also feel like has been played twice with great success, the romance card. And and the different dynamic that's thrown into it. Like, I've loved seeing Michael kind of lean into that and use that to add a different element to the story.
I described Tyrannic to some people, new gamers down here in Texas, as the lusty lizard man with a lascivious libido. I tried to get as much alliteration as I could go there. All right, so let's see here. Dave, I agree. Cosm cards are amazing, and I realize there is a tendency to want to be a little bit gun-shy, because I would say, at least half of each Cosm cards are not necessarily immediately beneficial to you. It's kind of, this thing happens because it would happen in this Cosm, but hey, you get this reward either for playing it or because after the fact. And I realize that sometimes it can be like, why would I ever play this card? But as we've seen, we've had some really great moments when being able to kind of see at the meta level, hey, this will pay off in reinforcing the theme of the Cosm. And I'm thinking about when Lady Salvo and Anton went to investigate the mine, and the Tharcold Cosm card got played that summoned some minions, but it took them out. We ended up having a second B-team game that when we never expected it, because now we have this reason to kind of go back. Or Ross playing the jump scare, which set off, again, I realize it was super tense, but it was one of the most, like, in my mind, one of the coolest series of events that unfolded in the Oroch campaign. Restar and Mr. Furious were talking about dramatic skill resolutions, and I have loved every time we have used them. I think shattering the artifact in Isle, the chase scenes that we have used them for, the hacking scenes, or the disrupting ritual scenes that we have used them for. It is a wonderful way to, as Mr. Furious said, they do generate tension, especially because not even I am in control of it. It's not just a matter of JM sets the difficulty number and that's all of my interactions. I don't actually know what the next card is. So you could have 2 or 3 cards in a row that don't have the C step, and so you guys are like still on the clock, but you're running up against things that are outside of all of our control, kind of moving forward. JM never would, but I think we've all known a GM who punishes you with the rules. Aw, thanks, Ben. I would hope then. I would hope that's the case. And yeah, Mr. Furious, part of the problem is every time we've jumped Cosms, we've tried to stay current with the Kickstarter, So all of my Cosm decks that are specific, or Destiny decks that are specific to the Cosm, are always 2 or 3 Cosms behind where the story is going. Let's see here. The Trannic, the Lizard of Love. I mean, that's also just great. Michael wooed Grigori to the hilt while snowmobiles were being destroyed. Also true. Yeah, and I agree with Mr. Furious. I think this plays into what Maddie was saying. Interaction attacks are part of that cooperative game. Going, all right, I don't have a skill high enough to hit this creature with my weapon, but Lapis does. If I can make an interaction attack, one, right, if you get an outstanding success on an interaction attacks, mooks just go away. Like, you scare them to death, or you send them running, or you maneuver them off of a cliff or a high-story building. You know who you are. Whereas they also allow, again, if you're thinking outside of the box, they allow your snow speeders to trip up the AT-ATs so that things can get destroyed. Hypothetically speaking, I'm just putting random words together just to make a story.
I mean, that's why I like yelling at things as Shelly. Like, it's a pure interaction attack, and I get to yell at things, so it works out.
Shelly's Hellfire and Brimstone speeches are a constant delight, especially juxtaposed with Malachi's, "Ooh, I love the chaos. Bring on the corruption." Like, it's an interesting. So really, the real question is, when you guys get out of the Living Land, does Malachi smell bad because you've just been in the Living Land for several days, or is that the hint? A waft of supernatural evil that you're detecting, Shelley. Alright, so Greg says this, and I'd love to hear, false surrender is always Malachi's favorite. I will remember that, and it is always step C, Mr. Furious. It's always step C. And I think that could be on purpose. Greg may be able to put in there, but there's nothing quite as, like, it's not as dramatic if you miss, like, a B. But if you're, like, trying to go for the third step and it's not there, now we've got some juicy tension. So Greg said one of the mechanics he was nervous about in original Torg, but that he loves now, is how initiative works. Having the heroes go in batches let them stage actions to great effect. He's saying that mechanically it kind of supports the scenes that we're trying to recreate from action movies. How have you guys, what are your guys' thoughts on the batched initiative, especially with the fact that, again, it's not dependent on the roll, it's dependent on the shuffle of the deck? Oh, I don't know who said this. JD removed your name from it. But someone said that Tyrannic the Lizard of Love is suavage as opposed to savage. That is a possibility point for whoever did that, because that is an outstanding punning roll. Was that you, Becca? Okay. All right. Initiative, go.
I definitely agree with the idea that it helps the heroes plot and plan. Because, yeah, in other games, if, the bad guy goes in between you and your friend's turn, then they can move out of whatever position you've maneuvered them into. So when you go in a row, and I know, okay, V is going to be able to trigger, the foam to slow down the opponent, and Simeon can lift Lapis up out of the foam, and then when Lapis shoots, it's like to the best possible option. Or when we're doing a dramatic test, like, because we're all sitting there working together kind of at the same time, it's the, I spotted that, V is able to unlock that, and, Simeon gets electrocuted. I mean, the moment with the C9 was terrifying. Needless to say. But yeah, it can be frustrating when we feel like we're getting beaten and we're not able to go.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, being able to go all at the same time lends itself to the more cinematic moments.
Yeah, and I think even when the villains go first, even if they get an up, so they have like the best possible first round. Welcome to all the ampersands who's lurking but loves the Q&A sessions. We all appreciate that. They're always a fun way to kind of take a break but still engage with each other and engage with the story and engage with all of you. Ben pointed out that Anton's telekinesis was super useful in that way, and I agree. Mark did an amazing job of using his telekinesis to maneuver friends and foes around the battlefield. But kind of going back to the initiative thing, at least for me, I sort of know that even if the villains have an up and they go first, yeah, they're going to batter the crap out of the heroes. The Storm Knights are going to take it on the chin. But the villains almost have to spread it around. So they're not generally, unless we're in Pan Pacifica and the feud card is played, and then they're like kill the one with the domino mask and the fedora. You guys have that ability to kind of, the fight pushes you into a knot. Okay, now that we're all back to back, we've all got blood on our faces. Now it's everyone's turn. I think to like the 13th Age game that you joined us in back when we were first playing games together at the store, where we had the cleric had the highest initiative in the group, and she always ran into combat because it was always her turn first. And then all the monsters were like, well, everyone else is way over there, so thud, 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 now the cleric is down. And then everyone else gets to go. And so here, you don't have to necessarily worry about, hey, one person went off and then got smashed. It's, we all get smashed together, then we all get to go. Or you guys have the option of coordinating. Maddie, John, what about you guys? What are your thoughts on this sort of batch initiative?
I think it also helps with pacing a lot. You know, in other games where you count down the initiative and sometimes it gets a little bit tedious and it kind of stalls out the pacing kind of thing.
Right.
And even even in those where you're clipping along and but if it's broken up with the villains, a couple villains go, and then some of the player characters go, and I think having it batched like that also kind of helps it almost be more dramatic or more what's the word? Almost a little more narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And helps that pacing.
Well, and not to pick on you, John. Please don't hear this as a this is more of an observation than anything. I've also noticed that it's been nice for you because you don't have necessarily as much experience. So unlike, say, like a ranked initiative, where I would come to you and go, hey, it's your turn. What are you going to do? And you're going, I don't even know what I can do. What we've seen with the batch initiative is, hey, John, what do you want to do? I don't know. Let me see what everyone else is doing. And people are throwing out ideas. Hey, maybe you can do this while I do this. Sometimes you've got, with batch initiative, what I've noticed, and I'm using you as the example, sometimes you have a clear idea of what you want your character to do on the turn. And you're like, hey, can I go first? And everyone's usually like, sure. Or what I've seen Ross do a couple of times is I've seen Maddie explain something and he'll be like, oh, do you mind if I go first? Because what I'll do is I'll set up you for success on your roll. But there's also times where in the chaos of battle, you don't even know what you want to do. And so it's sometimes helpful to go, listen, I'm going to go last out of the batch because I need to see what everyone else is doing. You get that little bit extra time to kind of plot through what you want to do. Maddie, do you have anything you wanted to add about initiative? I feel like it was a good question. We've got some good discussion going.
Yeah, there are days where I really like the batch initiative, and there are days where, the deck is stacked, so the villains go first for the entire fight.
I've never stacked a deck. I'm just tossing that out there.
No, I mean, yeah, there's days where I really enjoy it, and then there's days where we've been in certain fights where, because of the way the cards fell, it just felt really frustrating. Like you were always behind the curve, you couldn't quite get ahead. So I think it plays both ways. And there's days where I love it, and there's days where I don't love it.
Which I feel like it means it's at least balanced. If they're sort of equal in the times that they're coming up. All right, so this question's from me. I don't know that we have Restar saying that one of the things Restar said Maddie always does accuse JM of removing opponent fails.
But it wasn't in the deck.
In my defense, there was only one in the deck for a large chunk of time, and that is on me. And the player that was holding onto it in their stack. I'm just saying. I was not aware that cards had not been returned to me. Restar was saying that it also helps to kind of accept the nature of your build. Edith is kind of the tank. Malachi's the support. V is the hacker. Lapis is the shooter. Simeon's the wild card. Right? You have... look at Bureau G, look at the B team. There are no clear-cut roles in Torg, but it does help to go, hey, you know what, guys, I'm going to be the person who kind of uses magic to buff and heal people. Or, you know, guys, I'm putting a ton, like Lady Salvo, I put a ton into dex and a ton into shooting. So I'm really good at sneaking, maneuver, and fire combat, kind of to the exclusion of everything else. But you can't build a character that can do everything. You can build a character that can do a couple of things really well. And so I think one of the things I want to do for the Year 2 campaign that we're currently plotting after the Horsemen game is do a session 0 where we don't build characters, but we kind of talk about what the campaign's about. We sort of talk about what everyone wants to play and really solidify, here's the group identity, here's the roles everyone is planning on playing, and going from there. All right, so this one is for, again, the players and the chat. One of the things that I may want to do, or that I'm thinking of doing for the Year 2 campaign, is having cosms go to war. If you could pick any 2 cosms to go to war, what are the most interesting ones that you could think of? Like, what would your peanut butter and chocolate be?
I mean, there's part of me that would like to see Orosh and Tharkold just like duke it out for the darkest, worst timeline. I wouldn't want to play in it though, but I mean, I'd like to see them duke it out.
I mean, the dark versus dark with the Storm Knights trying to save as many people in between would be really great. Mr. Furious said Nile Empire versus Cyber Papacy. Pulp Heroes versus Street Samurais and Techno Priests. I can see that cross up in my head. Becca, John, any thoughts of if you were gonna do a Torg movie and only could pick 2 cosms to have interact?
I don't know if it's just because Pan Pacifica and Nile Empire are fresh in my mind because but I mean I was thinking
and your character's body
having but almost having them trying to assert their their world mechanics and
Their axioms.
their axioms, trying to vie for, you know,
Kind of around them.
right.
Restar said 2 words: South America, cyber papacy versus the living land. The highest tech versus the lowest tech, with high spirit between them. That could be super cool.
I was gonna say cyber papacy versus Tharkold, and you've got a holy war. Because you've got the priests in the cyber papacy and the demons
Yeah,
in Tharkold.
and a similar level of technology. That would be a great equalizer.
Shelly in the middle, just throwing holy water everywhere.
Again, these are just ideas I'm kicking around for the next campaign that we're going to be launching in January. But these are all very interesting. I will not share mine as of yet because I've got a couple that I'm kicking around in my head as well. But these are all like super interesting. Nile Empire versus Orosh. If I went not, that was Mr. Furious's comment. First of all, Restar's Cyber Papacy sourcebook is very specific about Brazil and how Baruch Ka and the Cyber Pope hate each other 100%. Like that's if you guys don't have the Cyber Papacy books, the campaign that came out with that one has the Cyber Papacy expanding into Brazil, and so that's kind of where that conflict would be. Nile Empire and Orosh, I could almost see like lean into things like Justice League Dark or the Darkhold Redeemers, kind of pulp superheroes with a little bit more dark supernatural bent, trying to stop some ancient evil from arising would be great. Ooh, Greg with a little spoiler in the chat. If you're not watching it live, I'm going to leave that one for just the people who are watching it live, because that sounds amazing. Oh no. Restar says a campaign to find Pazuzu's family, and there's a refugee camp in the English Channel Zone. The greatest NPC who played the martyr card on himself. Only to have Tyrannic. There's a lot of conflicting emotions about that episode, kind of in this region, in my heart muscle region, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to take all of those feelings, scrunch them up real tight, push them way down deep, and then they'll just go away eventually. Well, any other questions or thoughts from the players, for the GM, for the chat? Otherwise, we'll wrap this up here pretty quick. Any questions for me, John, Becca, or Maddie, like things about the campaign or about where the campaign has been, where it's going, that you would like answered?
How close are we to finding this hilt or this sword?
I would suspect that you would, if things go well, 3 to 4 sessions.
Okay. Second question. Are we going to see... Like, we're only going to see Pan-Pacifica villains, right?
Oh, no.
Okay. So what other cosmos are villains going to come from?
I've already foreshadowed that. Who's supplying this Najin Corp's research? Russia and the Cyber Papacy. So you should expect things from there as well.
Okay.
I will say, B Team, get your gear on for a Halloween episode. We'll try this again. You guys crushed the last Halloween episode, so we'll try it. We'll try it once more with feeling. And by that I mean the musical episode of Torg. Cannot promise anyone that there will actually ever be a musical episode, but gosh darn it if we could do it somehow.
think I have any questions for this stream. I don't know, Jam. So you've been running Torg for a while now. I know you have plans for season 2 and some of the things that you'd want to do there. But what type of character would you like to play in Torg? And what would you see kind of as their defining moment?
I like
Now
that
that-
question. Okay, now that I've forced you guys to answer this through the ringer, Greg just said the question is, if it goes poorly, is that B team poorly, so it will actually only be resolved in 2 sections? Here's the thing. The B team, they slouch towards glory, and they succeed every time. I will be honest, maybe Maddie, maybe there's a hippo army in your future. One thing I've always loved, I love a good redemption story. Maddie and Becca know this about me. And so I would love to play an aspirant from Tharkold, a techno demon that has, because of the law of hope, like Pazuzu. Like I would love to play a redeemed techno demon. Also, I love Isle. I love all of Isle. But I think an elf with a Drake companion would be really cool. Or a wonderful cyber papacy pulp hero. Yeah, long flowing blonde hair. I'd have to get a wig, but we know Becca would supply that.
So follow-up question. If you were to play a aspirant working towards redemption,
It's true, Mr.
how
Furious.
would you visualize yourself in the curve?
Oh, how would I visualize myself in the Cur?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would evolve. I think at first it would be his worst fears. So the most corrupt and vile techno-demon persona that you would ever see in the Cur. Skin oozing tar and bitumen and just... But as he continued to evolve, that would start to slough off, maybe revealing kind of a more statuesque, kind of made of marble, kind of still a techno demon, obviously, but sort of a enlightened, refined, sort of maybe the eidolon, if you will, of techno demons. What they could possibly become if they managed to slough off their fate and hit that plane of what they could possibly be.
So not a stuffed animal that leaks glitter when attacked?
No. But if V programmed that, I'm sure we would find some way to glitch out and have that happen. All right, everyone. Well, thank you all. Chat, as always, you do owe me an aspirant session or two, Greg. Hopefully someday you will see me playing Pazuzu in Pazurson? I don't know. But thank you to everyone. I'm glad to be back. Thank you guys for understanding. We just needed time off while this whole move was going on. But we're back. We're going to be back next week on Torg's Day night to jump back into the Horsemen campaign. We will be back on Thursday night with the epilogue to our Fading Suns arc as we sort of wrap up what's happening on Lemminkainen and head towards Hargard. So to my horsemen, the trio that are here, and to the 2 who are missing, thank you all. I love running this game for you. I love that you guys have invested in Torg with me, and we're going to continue journeying on this to finish up this campaign. I can't promise that every question will be answered, because part of the thing is I keep throwing avenues for you to explore, and there's some that you guys are just we don't want to walk down now. We're going down this other path, so they may get explored in the next campaign. Chat, as always, we do this for you guys, so it's always great to see you guys interacting with us, asking questions, making comments, making throwbacks. Hashtag vampires don't sparkle, but we're about to. And as always, thank you to Phantom and to JD for being our moderator and producer. You guys are spectacular. We could not do this without you. So until next time, and it feels so good to say this, I am JM the GM. These are the Horsemen, and we will be back next week for more Torg. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay gaming. Have a good one.